Everyone, welcome to our regularly scheduled Lake County School Board meeting of April 12th, 2021. Before we begin the work of the district, let us stand for a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, Superintendent.
There are a few changes to the agenda. First of all, item 10.01 is being pulled for no action. Also, there was an HR addendum that was added to item 9.01 and revision to Exhibit B on the Pyramid School Products Agreement. That's item 8.08, and you have copies of all of those additions as well if you'll mark through item 10.01. Are there any other changes, board members, to the agenda?
No, Superintendent.
Okay. At this time, I recommend approval of the minutes from the school board workshop March 22nd, 2021, and the regular school board meeting March 22nd, 2021.
You've heard the superintendent's recommendation.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? 5-0. Now we're into public input. We have one card. Is he Mr. Oh, Mr. Clapp, please.
Mr. Sudar is here as well.
Yeah, that's the one. That's actually what I was thinking they said. Go right
No.
ahead. Like the whole
Good
rotation.
evening. Good evening. Stuart Clapp, 1713 South Street, Leesburg. First off, if a teacher would retain a student without grading or evaluating any of their work, that would be a major problem. Yet, that's what we're doing to teachers. We're seeing reappointments going out, and I'm glad we're doing some of them early so it's not during Teacher Appreciation Week. But yet, we have teachers that are being told they're not being reappointed, and they haven't even had their evaluations yet. We don't have FS scores yet, FSA scores, which we may never have. But they're being told. And when they ask why, and we've heard this before, and I've said it for the last 7 years, we're going in a new direction. You don't fit my vision. Okay, it's education. How many new directions can there be? We teach children. In some cases, teachers are not being reappointed who have more years experience in a school than the administrator. So what is wrong here? Teachers have had a tough year. They've had a variety of teaching strategies, styles, redesigns, live lake, virtual classrooms, high-stakes testing, counting, not counting, COVID, parents and family members dying, teachers getting sick. It's been a tough year, folks. So if we're making decisions on what teachers we're not reappointing, what is the subjective criteria that's being used? Is there a rubric? So we're asking administrators to be specific. Why are you not reappointing? One teacher was told that they cut the allocation and then saw it advertised the next day. So I'm not sure what we know there's a teacher shortage, guys. We have tried to grow our own. We've tried to encourage people to change professions. There's still a teacher shortage. Would it not be smarter to work with teachers, get them up to par, work with them? We've had a bad year. Keep the people that we need to, rather than having this nebulous, you're not being reappointed because I'm going in a new direction, which has no meaning. It's kind of demeaning to a teacher anyway. So, on that note, have a good evening, guys.
Thank you. Okay. We'll take Mr. Serdar. Good evening, Mr. Serdar.
Good evening.
So you have, give us your name and address for the record, and then you have 3 minutes, sir.
David Serdar, 66 Wintergreen Drive, Fruitland Park, Florida, 34731. You know, my uncle Paul was a lion safari hunter. My dad was a principal, same school he went to as a child, North Chicago, Illinois. I was an employee here. You know, we're all going to die. This is the Ocala police chief. I was there. He had an airplane. Guy can pull the plug on you anytime you want. He lost a whole family. And he was a skydiver. And I had 14 hours of flight. Waukegan, Illinois has an airport Michael Jordan flies into. And veterans fight for our life. You know, I have a Senate Pace Mass. I lost him from Kathy Mears, the chief of the Senate, chief of staff of Senate President Wilton Simpson. You know, the Capitol is a great thing. The Senate building was built in '73. But I was in State Affairs Committee talking about, well, veterans, our kids could go and be military officers. We have it at Leesburg High School, an ROTC program. Mr. Honeycutt runs that. But I was in CSHB 669, Environmental, Agriculture, and Planning Subcommittee. That is James Vernon Buchanan, the chairman, District 74. I have honored that representatives are giving me shirts. That was a representative also. His dad is a congressman. So we have 27 congressmen. But HB 7017, Public Integrity and Elections Committee, Grail, and others, foreign influence. You know, I was in that meeting, public comment as a proponent. One of the senators, at one of the Senate meetings I was at the Florida State University, where I go to ball games because I played basketball. You know, I walk in parades. I'm worried about our kids' future. I hope you had a blessed Easter. You know, I'm a florist. We have a Bill of Rights. The governor's office knows me. I talked to his staff member, Brenda Burnett, the other day. And my dad was a principal at St. School he went to. He taught respect and values that people walked with. He taught me that. I've written a letter to Pope Francis, and I'm worried about our kids' future. Orlando represented itself up there as University of Central Florida, where you are the elementary school board. Right? The kids are going to secondary education. Right here at the Knights. I have Seminole State was up there. Orlando, I know these people. You know, I was ROTC, and I was in high school. You know, I played basketball. I've also run for office. I go to school board meetings, Brevard, Summer, in here. I'm worried about our kids' future. I just left the Masters. I love the Masters. But by God, our veterans fought for our lives, and there's a veterans bill where there's going to be training. So when they go into the service, our kids, our children, which are so important to everybody, it's families that matter. And, well, my dad taught me that. I want you to know I love Lake County. I'm from Libertyville, Illinois, but I've lived out here in Lake County. And I'm from Lake County, Illinois, where we have to thank our police officers. You know, one of the bills somebody wants officers, teachers to take care of kids. Well, an 8-year-old girl was arrested and handcuffed.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, my God, you want the teachers to handle it? Hey, when do you have a gun or a knife? When do you tap the limit to do
Thank you,
that?
Mr. Serdar.
Thank you
very
very
much.
so much for your time.
Thank you. Okay, we'll give you just a second to organize yourself.
Oh,
You need a backpack.
yeah. Or a bag, grocery bag.
Thank you, sir. Okay, Mr. Findley?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
While Mr. Finley's walking up, let me just point out to you that Mr. Finley is a parent of a child at Eustis Heights. I believe his wife was here to speak at the last meeting, and I pointed out to you that there are still personnel matters going on in law enforcement investigation that are active at this moment. And I'd ask you to certainly listen to Mr. Finley, but not make any comments, ask any questions, or provide any information.
Mr. Finley, if you'll give your name and address for the record, and then you have 3 minutes, sir.
Good evening. My name is Kevin Finley Sr. My address is 1001 Titcomb Street in Eustis, Florida. Let me start by saying I'm a proud father of my 6-year-old son. His name is Kevin Finley Jr. And earlier this year, his teachers did notify us that they saw a change in his behavior. The seldom calls about his behavior became more frequent as the school year went by. But it wasn't until March 10th that we learned. And now we're beginning to understand the depth of my son's pain, maltreatment, and abuse that he's received at Eustis Heights Elementary. Our son alleged multiple times that the staff there humiliated him by carrying him by his pants. They carried him by his wrists and his ankles. And the biggest nightmare was that someone we trusted, the dean, sat and witnessed as the school guardian put his hands on my son's neck and held him in a chair till it was hard for him to breathe. As a dad and a father, he's my first son. And I will tell you, you'll never know what a 6-year-old African-American child will, and how he will see the world and experience it after the trauma that he received there. We trusted his educators to inspire him and educate him, but we now see that they were also a part of the problem we see in America today, which reinforces the systematic problem we continue to see, the bias which perpetuates hate in our country. I heard them describe my son's reactions, I should say, to their abuse as him being angry and violent, but they should have said that he was a scared 6-year-old and frustrated victim of the abuse he received there. I would like to ask you guys to make sure that we tell other parents, because we walk to school every day, and as I talk to more and more parents, I'm realizing he is not the only child. I don't understand why it hasn't been said yet, but I want to make sure that other parents that are going through what we're going through, at least they can ask their child if they have received the same treatment there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Superintendent.
So I think Carmen, yes, she's online, so
Okay.
Ed Foundation is up with your report.
Good evening, Chairman, Superintendent, School Board. The Education Foundation has had 888 teacher visits to our Apple Mart stores, and we've distributed $66,000 worth of supplies. We are tracking to have the biggest year ever for attendance at Apple Mart. We received a $10,000 grant from Duke Energy, and this grant will go to fund a drone project at Leesburg High School, as well as a STEM project. They're turning refrigerators from electric to solar powered refrigerators at East Ridge High School. We identified 83 top scholars, which equal the top 3% of our graduates from each high school. And they will be honored in the May edition of Style. And we've purchased gifts for them that will be sent to the principal for distribution at graduation. We are hosting the Hall of Fame luncheon in conjunction with Sherry Owens and her team. And I believe our deadline for reservations is on Wednesday. Our Teacher Appreciation Month is going to kick off with a fundraiser that the public can purchase a postcard for $10, and it will be mailed to the teacher telling them that they rock. And we are working with the SCAs and the PTOs to make it a fundraiser for the schools as well. And we're just excited that we'll be able to thank our teachers and then get some unrestricted funds going back directly into those schools. We are also working with Tavares High School, Leesburg High School, Umatilla High School, and Mount Dora High School to assist with the logistics of their proms, which will be up and coming in the next 2 weeks. At three more will be at Mission Inn, and one will be at the Tavares Pavilion. And we had already assisted Eustis High School, and that evening was very successful, went well. T-Mobile will be doing a teacher delight and treat, and we were able to select 5 schools in various zip codes, and we selected Eustis Heights Elementary, Oak Park Middle, Beverly Shores, Leesburg Elementary, and Mount Dora High School. And T-Mobile is donating a coffee maker, and they're setting up decorations and treats in the break rooms during the month of May for teacher appreciation. Our scholarship platform is closed. We had about 250 applicants for one of our 10 scholarships. And the panelists are now reviewing those and scoring them, and the winners will be announced next week. Ladies for Education is on May 14th at Continental Country Club, and we only have one team left. It's the first time ever we've basically had a sellout. So we're very excited about our first really live event since the pandemic selling out. Stepping Out for Education is being refreshed. We are moving it from Mission Inn, where it's historically been a 7-course meal, to the Claremont Arts and Recreation Center on July 22nd, 23rd, and 24th. And instead of the 7-course sit-down meal, our culinary chefs are going to be doing high-end appetizers for our guests, and it'll be more of a performance in the black box. So far, we have secured Dr. Emily Feldner as the representative from Lake County Schools to be a dancer, and the mayor of Claremont, Tim Murray. And all dancers should be confirmed by the end of the week. The Foundation Strategic Planning Session is at Venetian Center on April the 28th from 9 to 1. Take Stock in Children has received 6 workforce scholarships from the state of Florida that come to us at no charge. We're able to add those to the 38 students that we are bringing in May. And our virtual contract signing for those students is May 13th. We are also having a graduation luncheon for the 44 graduating seniors on April the 29th. And our Take Stock and Children Council meets on April the 15th. Are there any questions?
Great, thank you very much, Carl. Any questions? Good. Thank you. Okay. Attorney's report, Mr. Johnson. Okay. Superintendent.
I recommend approval of the consent agenda items 8.01 to 9.02 and 10.02 to 10.04.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? 5-0. Okay. Discussion.
And I will turn it over to Mr. Johnson.
Mr. Chairman, the next item is a policy approval. It is final approval of policy P-O-3124, drug-free workplace. If there's anyone here this evening that wishes to speak to the final approval of this policy, then please come forward to the podium at this time. Is there anybody on the internet? Dr. Feldman? Mr. Chairman, I believe it appropriate to close the public hearing.
Superintendent, you have a recommendation.
I recommend final approval of policy 3124, the drug-free workplace.
Do you have a motion?
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? 5-0. Okay. Superintendent's report.
So I sent to you all the email that we received on Friday, I believe that was, following a webinar that Dr. Feltner and I attended. regarding the emergency order, executive order that came out from the commissioner in regards to assessment and accountability. And so I've asked her to give you a few of the highlights from that order. I know you've had a chance to read it. Certainly want to answer any questions that you may have. We are very, very grateful that the state has taken action. I know this is, there have been a lot of, between lobbyists and FEA and everyone else, everyone has been pushing for these changes to give us another year of that grace and compassion that we know that our students need. We're also very fortunate here with the section regarding VAM scores. You know, we haven't used VAM scores in our teacher evaluations for several years since I got here, and we did away with that practice. And so we're going to continue that. So that part really isn't applicable to us, but the part that has to do with, of course, school grading and some waivers for our seniors, which I think were the two main things that we were really pushing for, as well as allowing teachers to work with parents and their administration to make promotion and retention decisions. So if you'll just give us a few of the highlights, and then certainly any questions that you all have, we'll be happy to address with you afterwards. Yes.
So good evening. Thank you. So while the superintendent said there's been some highlights given to you, and so I just thought I would use the presentation that they gave to us and sort of run through it really quickly with the cliff notes. And then if you have any questions, I just want to remind you that it came out Friday at 11, so we may not have all the answers, but we are working on it diligently. So this is Executive Order 02, and basically there's several components to it. One, it starts with graduating seniors. It allows graduating seniors to receive a waiver again for some of the testing requirements that are required for graduation. So those would be things like the EOCs, the 10th grade ELA, the algebra EOC. It allows us to determine on a case-by-case basis if the student has determined and established a comparable level of achievement. And so that's good news for our seniors in terms of some of them. I will tell you that we are currently, just so you know the work that we've done today, we are gathering the number of seniors that still need those requirements at each high school so that we know how many case-by-cases we are going to work with. And so that's one of the pieces that came up in this. We also know that that as far as promotion and retention, that we would not really utilize an EOC for those, and that we would basically do it on the student's performance in the course. And so we know that we also have a waiver for EOC exams. So things like biology, taking that it does not have to count for 30%. You would just take the if they have done well in the course, we wouldn't average those in, and that allows some students to be able to waive those EOC exams. Promotion and retention, obviously, and this really isn't really a change, but just a reminder about decisions about whether it's in the best interest of a child to repeatedly to grade, which should be done with a parent and the teacher and school leaders. Those should be done together and collaboratively. We also know that third grade promotion, that students would need to utilize a good cause promotion, but they do not necessarily nothing can be held against them if they have the absence of a score on the ELA assessment. So the third grade reading assessment, they can go to fourth grade with a good cause promotion. As far as Bright Futures, the Florida medallions, this all deals with the volunteer hours. Also talking the same thing about the Vocational Scholars Award. Basically what it says is that high school counselors can submit documentation that says that either the student has completed the hours or they have intended to complete the hours but couldn't because of a COVID-related incident, or maybe the business was not open full time so they couldn't complete the hours that way. But so it's almost like if the child had good intentions to complete the hours but didn't quite get them finished, we can apply for a waiver and it would still count for the volunteer hours, which really helps those students who were on that track to get the scholarship but this year could not complete all of their 75 hours. So that's good news for seniors as well. So here's the one that you're probably the most interested in, and that's the opportunity to opt in or opt out of a school grade. So what it basically says is that we have the option to opt in on a school grade or a school improvement rating if we have a 90% tested or higher. So currently in legislation, it was 95%. We had to have 95% tested, so they have lowered that percentage to 90. And so if you have 90%, you have the opportunity to opt in for a school grade. So schools with a 95% tested rate, if they want to opt in and they apply to opt in, then they will be automatically approved. If they have a 90 to 95, they will apply and then they will look at all of the components around it, like how many kids were tested, and they will make a determination for us. So we apply as a district, we can apply for every school to get a school grade, and you apply individually. So some schools can opt in, other schools can opt out. So it works in this way. We expect assessment results to be back by July 31st. Remember, they extended our testing window to June 30th. We have to have scores back 30 days after that, which puts us at a late July date for assessments to come back. Within another 30 days, after the assessment results are released, we have the opportunity to decide if we're going to apply to opt in or not. So we're looking at those who want to opt in to have school grades around mid-August, early September, really more like an early September, more than likely. And whether or not you opt in or not, you will still have all the assessment results published for every school on that Know Your Schools educational portal that you can get off the Florida DOE website. But the school grades wouldn't necessarily be published unless you opt in for a school grade. If you decide to opt in, you can improve your rating. So for example, if you were a school that was a struggling school, it could get you out of that struggling school status. If you were a school that was a C but you were getting a B, you would change your rating. However, if you do not opt in, you stay at the exact same pre-COVID rating that you were before. So
they can make their decision after they see their data?
they can. We have 30 days. So
This is about as dumb as I did.
Your data's good.
If every source is really well, we could get them on the PA.
Right.
But we don't, if some other school has like half the kids gone, we don't have to count that school.
That's why they're doing this. But like, you mean as for like why they went to so much trouble to waive this in a weird way? I don't know.
In a weird, to me, you're either in or you're out. And the idea that individual schools will have the chance to make a decision just seems odd to me.
It is
Because you have, I mean, who's going to take a lower grade, right?
Yeah.
So,
Right, and everybody's going to know if you don't, and you do. Well, I must not have because my data.
and then what happens to the district grade?
So that is a question that is still a bit unanswered, and we haven't got clarification on that yet. I asked the same question. I'm not sure, so I don't know if the superintendent has any more clarification on that, but we don't because I don't know
I
how
say
that works.
we only have our A school say yes, and then boom, there we go.
Then our grade will be amazing.
Well, the district grade would still have to be done on all of the student scores in the whole district. So it wouldn't be based on whether or not somebody had a grade or not. It would be based on if we wanted one for all of our student scores. I'm assuming if we tested 90% or better that we could get a district grade, but I don't. That was actually, it just said schools, so I haven't found the piece about district. That's a part I'm questioning that too.
I cannot imagine on this planet that we just wouldn't have the transparency to tell it like it is. Or say up front right now, we're not doing all this. Well, yeah.
Well, we live in Florida, so sometimes we have weird rules.
Mrs. Cunningham,
Sir.
as an administrator, give us your thoughts on this. Because it seems very odd to me.
Well, if I was a school in need of improvement and my data showed that I might be able to get out of that status, of course I would want to opt in. And of course, if I had an A, I'd want to opt in. If I dropped, I wouldn't, or if I had a poor grade, I wouldn't. So I guess it just depends on what the data shows.
So we have half our schools reported, and like say 14 don't. I mean, it's gonna be silly.
Right.
Well, the logic and the thought behind the opting in and opting out is we've heard that there are so, and you think about it, we have had schools where students they've been in school for 3 weeks, they go into quarantine. They come back, they go into quarantine. So that flux of kids going in, kids coming out, and where that happens to unfairly maybe assign a school grade that's not necessarily reflective of all the great work that has happened, they wouldn't want to see that happen. And so in cases where you have a large percentage of the kids that might still be learning virtually, or they've been in this innovative model that might not have really been the best match for them. There's all those variables to which they don't want to unfairly grade a school, grade a district, just like they don't want to grade a child unfairly based on each individual scenario, which is why they say on a case-by-case basis, make the right decision for kids. Like on a case-by-case basis, make the right decision for your district and your schools. And if the data is reflective of truly what the performance of the students are, that will be the conversation with each leader. Is this grade reflective of where you are? And if so, let's take the grade and move forward. And if not, then we don't want to unfairly assign that grade. So I think until we see it, we don't really know.
Conceivably, could you have an A that you sit down with that administrator and they actually know a B, and you say take the B?
Possibly.
No.
I mean,
You
I
tell
don't.
them to stay with you.
Yeah.
So then the meeting. You know what I mean?
Well, the assessment data is always
But
out
it never
there. I mean, I don't know
means
that we would never say. I think what's important is that
I just,
what I would like to relay the message I have for principals in our principals meeting tomorrow is try to get 90% tested, because then you have an option. If you don't have 90% tested, you don't have any options at all. So we're still on the idea that we have an expectation that we get as many students in to be able to test as possible, so that we have the choice to be able to decide if we want to grade or not. So that's part of the pieces, and we're going to have a pretty good counter list. We're going to have a pretty good idea of which students were in both surveys at what schools, and then we have 30 days. We can run grade simulations before we apply. So we would know before we apply basically how the grades would fall out, which is going to be important to really smart people in accountability and assessment to be able to get us a grade simulator. And that'll be part of the process too. So those are some of the things that we're thinking about and working on in terms of, because of course we wouldn't want to not know and then apply. That would seem sort of silly to do.
but if you have lower performing schools, and we have some, we put our emphasis on those. If you're an A already, just stay with the A, go with the flow. Have 10% short for the test. I don't want to say it. Yeah. but right?
No. Well, all those kids still count as part of districts, and I think the idea here is that the tests remove the high stakes and really become more of an informing sort of piece, right?
Because
Which
it
is what
should
we
be.
wanted to see forever.
Yes.
Is that we just want to know how our kids are performing, right? And then use that data and then guide their instruction, right? And learning games are not part of this year. Is that right?
Oh, they are part of it.
It's somewhere in there. I read
Learning
something.
games, that part has not changed. They just put it in the presentation to remind you. But basically, it's a prior year.
But without testing last year, we're not looking at prior year.
Yeah, we're looking at it's the year before. So a fifth grader would make games from third grade. They have a new scale that they've given us, and so basically they have to make 2 years worth of growth to count for learning games.
That's not
So the
accurate.
fifth graders are going to be compared to their third grade score.
That's super accurate.
They're not compared. Fifth grade is just the only people that can, in an elementary
Right.
calculation. Fifth grade are the only fifth grade. Any students who are retained in fourth or could get a learning game, but that's all they can do. Learning.
That's really silly.
Now, of course, that's not 6 through 8, but the same thing. So there's a lot of emphasis on seventh graders would go back to fifth grade, eighth grade goes back to sixth grade. You can kind of do the skip a year and go back. So it goes back to the 18-19 school year.
I had a teacher and I wasn't clear. You mentioned that we don't use VAM, and I read that section on VAM, and a teacher asked me, do their scores count? So I thought it was yes, but then you said we don't use VAM, so now their scores don't count at all because we don't use their scores.
The FSA score. No, we've not factored in the VAM scores.
We
in our
don't use
evaluations
VAM,
for a
but we
while.
do use the FSA score. So the teacher evaluation portion will be still using the FSA score.
Yes, that's not VAM.
Okay, but
we
it
don't use it. We don't use the state VAM formula
but we
in our evaluation system.
we still do have to use.
But we do have to use assessment measures for part of our evaluation system.
Normally. But what
That is
about
still
this
in
year?
place.
It's
Yes,
still in
the
place.
language is still in there.
And
Yes.
it's the same language. We have to use FSA, or can we
No,
use
we-
any assessment?
We have
test?
to use whatever student performance measures that the district has been using.
And they mandate it's FSA. Okay. So they didn't take away the stakes from the teachers.
No.
That's
The
what I
only
was
group
trying
that
to
we're not
figure
taking
out.
away. So,
No, but
why
they're
did
not
they-
using the VAM calculation.
Okay.
That's my point.
So why did they dislike teachers?
They've always disliked
I mean,
teachers.
so can we write a letter and just ask that question? Why do you not like teachers?
Go
Okay.
for it.
I mean,
I'll
I'd
sign
love
it.
to see the answer to that.
I don't disagree. Rather than saying anybody not like teachers, but it might be nice to ask. We removed high stakes. We have expectations of compassion and grace for children, and but we're still using the measures for teacher evaluation.
And I do know that that's Stuart can tell you FEA is all over that. They're really pushing hard, and they've sent out some publications and things that we can share with our lobbyists and others that are up there every day advocating for our folks. So we'll certainly pass that along.
But the likelihood is that this was the decision, right?
You would
was
think,
the
but this
decision.
is what
we
we
should still, I think, express our disappointment.
Absolutely.
I agree.
I mean, for the sake of our teachers who
I agree.
are out there every single day, putting up with all the nonsense they're putting up with.
Especially
And
this
then we get this back from the state. Hey, look at all this grace and compassion for all these people, except you.
But maybe he might give $1,000 bonus. Sorry, that was a little snarky.
Okay. Diane?
One more piece. The
Oh.
very last piece is VPK. The summer hours are typically 300 summer hours of VPK instruction. It's been suspended and now it's 200. I think we still plan to run a pretty robust program, knowing that those kids are going to be needing to come into kindergarten. So I don't know that we'll see much changes in terms of hours, but it was a consideration they gave us. Any questions?
Yes, ma'am. I have one about the VPK. The reduction from 300 to 200 hours, is that just for public schools or that for any facility that offers VPK?
It is for any. It says
So we're
public
not
schools
getting the
and
share.
private pre-kindergarten providers. Yes, no, any provider.
Oh, could you just please send us this? Because reading the actual thing is a little hard.
Yeah, this is a nice. It was a nice little summary they gave.
Yeah, could you send us this summary?
Why would they suspend from 300 to 200 when we know that's where our kids need to help?
My rationale that I can figure out is that many districts started really late, and so their school year is actually extending well into June, which is also why the testing has been extended. And so they don't even have 300 hours to get in before the start of next year. So it's not that they're saying don't go to school for a month. They're saying, I'm not sure you have enough days to get 300 hours in. And the summer VPK program is really, really rigorous. Monday through Friday, like 8 to 4:30, like those little babies, they go to school a lot in the summer to do a VPK and to get all the hours in. So I imagine districts who are going, and they had to think about all the districts. I think we are in a good position.
Are we going to stay at 300?
I think we have intentions. My cabinet talks about that tomorrow, but I think we have enough days to run it all.
And they're going to fund it also? Or is there a reduction in the funds because they reduced the rate?
No, there's not. They don't. Funding shall be prorated accordingly. So, yep. Looks like
Good, it is still funded.
it is still funded. It would, yes, but not at the.
Oh. Okay. Mrs. Cunningham, do you have something else?
No, sir. Thank you.
I got it.
Oh, you got one more this one?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so state EOCs. All right, so they don't count as kid's grade. It helps the kid. Is there a way to count it, or for them to request that, or is it just a blanket? None of these count towards your grade this year.
Oh, good question.
I'm sorry, could you repeat your question?
Yeah, about the state EOCs, right? They normally count for 30% of the kid's grade,
Right.
and they're not going to count. But if it helps a kid, is there a way for the kid to opt into that to say, "Hey, I scored a 5. Meanwhile, you gave me an 89 in the course.
Right.
I
I
should
want
get
my
an
A.
I want an A." Right?
Yeah, good point.
Is there a way for them to opt into that, or rest of
This says it's authorized to determine promotion and final course grades based solely on the student's performance in the course. So I can get clarification on that, but
Including.
So we're authorized to
To
do it
utilize
only
them.
using their, but
I don't know if we could, yeah.
but there
so-
wouldn't be anything in that language that precludes us from.
It
Mhm.
says including in instances where the student does not have a score from the EOC, which I think might imply that when they do have a score, that you can use it. But
We'll go with that.
Maybe Steve should look at the language.
Yeah, I think we probably need to do something consistently across the district, so we'll need to make some language around that. In terms of what they're running for. I don't know why we wouldn't, right? Like, why would we not?
Okay.
We're gonna have people selecting whether to take their grades or not across the board. It's gonna start at kindergarten, go all the way
Well,
to
it
our
would be
schools.
it would be
Opt
nice
out.
if people would make if the choices were reasonable based on how many times a student has been quarantined and if they still are keeping up with their learning versus if they missed 45 days of school and the technology. Like there's a lot of moving pieces that I think would be reasonable to give a teacher a couple of options, but it would need to be made. Those conversations should probably have to happen.
And so the EOCs still apply for students who are not graduating this year that are graduation requirements. For instance, they still have to pass the 10th grade ELA. If they were a 10th grader this year, they need to pass that. And if they were quarantined 100 times, then and they didn't pass it, then okay, now go out and get yourself a concordance or something else.
They would have many more chances in 11th and 12th or concordance for you. So it's only way for graduating seniors this year. Those graduation requirements.
Those are the big one. Okay, and then third grade retention, I was having trouble understanding really how this is dramatically different than what we have now because hey, you can use a good cause exemption. Oh wait, you can already do that.
Yeah.
So there's this little piece of language at the end there about or other means reasonably calculated to provide reliable evidence of the student's performance. Are these other means the grades in the course, or is it here's iReady, or here is whatever other
So,
things.
Ms. Pycroft and I had a conversation about this as well. I think, so typically what it means is that, I think there's language that says that they have to take the test to then have a good cause promotion to go into place. And this means that there can be the absence of a score can still put you in good cause status. So, does that make sense? So typically I have to take the test, not get a level 2, and then I'm eligible for good cause.
Now I'm eligible for good cause even if I don't take the test.
That is exactly correct. And then, so when we
Nope.
talked about this other means, I think we would need to, like, we have put in our reading plan, our K-12 reading plan has been approved by the state already. And we have our good cause promotions or how we will promote students, without a level 2 on the FSA. And so I think we would need to go back to that language and use those good cause promotions. I don't think that we're going to, make new rules for how kids can go when we already have ideas for that already in place. The portfolio, the iReady score, those pieces. Summer learning camp.
And this is only, and it does say that if they get a level 1, they can. Wait, level 1s can always have good cause.
That's
Yeah.
right. This is the
But they
piece
had
that
to have a
really
level
has-
1.
This is much ado about nothing.
So in reality, the kids who have 1s, their grades don't just save them in this case. They still have to meet the same criteria that they've always met. So really, this paragraph is pointless,
Well, I think it's the regardless of the absence
regardless of whether or not they.
of an assessment, that is the language that's needed.
Okay.
Okay, that's why we used, or that's why people opted out, and that's why they broke the seal so
Exactly
that they were present and had taken the test and therefore could get good cause. So now people who are quarantined at home for whatever, they don't have to come in to break the seal. that's, I guess, the reason.
Anything else?
I think we still encourage people as much as possible to, you know, they can come in for the assessment because of the fact that we do want to know where they're at, right? We would like to know what the learning is. Correct?
I'm anxious to see it.
Me too, especially now this, because I misread the learning games, and so now because I was like, oh, this section does not apply. In reality, no, the section the last year's learning games don't apply. We're going to use 2 years ago.
Right.
So I don't know. That's just nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions for me?
No, you're amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Congratulations on
comments?
your stepping out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not sure that's.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
can't wait for that.
Me either.
Okay. We'll do comments this time. We'll go to Mr. Dodd.
All right, sure. Hey, so I just want to throw out a praise. This is kind of going back a little bit here, but once again, a praise to the curriculum folks who worked on our district science and engineering fair. Because okay, so I've had the benefit of having a kid and being the parent in the room at the district and now at the state level to troubleshoot any sort of technical difficulties. I will tell you that our district people knocked it out of the park for this virtual stuff, whereas the state really could have taken a few pages out of Lake County's playbook. So, well done.
Wow.
Excellent.
Impressive.
We
Excellent.
need to show the rest of the state how it's done.
Good deal. Mrs. Cunningham?
Well, I don't have a lot. I will be at Leesburg Elementary tomorrow for 2 hours, observing some classrooms and sitting in on some intervention with them. I did it a couple of weeks ago at Beverly Shores, and I'm happy to say that they're all working really hard, and I have high expectations for them. Congratulations to you on your science fair winner. I saw that. That's really good. And the only other thing I would ask is that I am concerned about the fact that we seem to have given everyone a way around our pandemic help except for our teachers. So I would also support that we should either speak to our lobbyists or, you know, send a statement or something in support of them looking at the governor and the legislature looking at something that might eliminate some of this stress for our teachers. Other than that, thank you.
Very good.
You're here to that.
Dr. Burns?
I completely agree with her. I wanted to thank you all for your kind words to my mom. That was really sweet. And thank you for a good discussion. Obviously, you can see there's a lot of passion in the family. Also, I just have a couple quick points. I was asked a while ago about, there was a problem with the wells, like this was a couple months ago, and the district gave me stuff and I've been forgetting to comment. There was a well and somebody, the date was missed to test the well, and one of our constituents noticed and commented, and I said I would follow up. I did, and they did, and then I forgot to actually say it out loud. So there was a lapse. It was less than 30 days. We do not, in Lake County Schools, we've been on these properties for 30 years, and we have never used any of those chemicals. And the lapse was addressed, as well as future, to make sure we don't have any future lapses. And there was nothing wrong with the well at all. So everything is fine. All the water's fine. Also, is John here?
He's outside.
Out in the lobby.
There he is.
We've been talking about this for a month. Can you talk about bipolar ionization? So one of the things
In
now,
1 minute or less.
one of the things that the board or we've all been working on with COVID is air quality, because finally the CDC said that COVID is passed through the air primarily. And I've been on them for, as he could tell you, forever about it being passed through the air and it being an aerosol. And they have been working on upgrading our HVAC systems with something called
iWave.
Okay, there you go. And he's going to mention it and where we are.
Yes, we are installing iWave in our schools and on all portables, and that is a needlepoint bipolar ionization that cleans, and basically it provides charge to neutralize the virus, as well as other products like dust, smoke, etc. So it makes it a much more cleaner environment. It's very similar to what hospitals use.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you. What's our percentage now?
Percentage of installed?
Yeah.
The portables, as I understand, the portables are complete, and we're working on the schools right now in getting in the matter of fact, the parts were just recently ordered, and they're being installed. And my goal is obviously to have them completely done before school starts, but I will have a better idea on that probably in about another month to
Thank
see
you.
where we're at. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, so obviously a long project, and this also will help with mold and air quality, which is, I think, great. So well done. And that's all I have. Thank you very much.
The only thing I wanted to say was just I'm going to extend on Mr. Dodds that the STEAM Bowl was amazing, and it was nothing short of what those high expectations that we've set in that curriculum department. And Mrs. Cockcroft, your ship is so tight, and those kids are so blessed to be a part of that. So much fun to watch, and I know they're doing it for the next couple of days, and those ladies and gentlemen are going to be exhausted by the end of the week. So we appreciate their work, and we are excited for the next couple of days of competition. So thanks.
And then I just have a quick note. If anyone heard or followed Facebook and the vaccination of our kids in their high schools, it went absolutely seamlessly. And so that's a credit to the volunteers that were outside and the superintendent, your leadership on that. I think we've led the state, maybe the country, and being proactive in protecting our staff, our teachers, and our kids. So very well done to everyone that participated. And that's about all I have. Meeting adjourned.